Welcome to In Edina, a program about the people, places, and activities all in the city of Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald, and we bring you this broadcast from Edina's very own Art Center, where you can actually take home some of these beautiful pieces with you. Joining us first, Brad Ben from Edina's Public Art Committee to tell us a little bit about how we find art and put it in some places throughout the city of Edina. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
We really
Pleasure
appreciate
to be
it. And we appreciate all the fine work as you beautify the city with sculptures and paintings and stained glass windows.
We're working on it.
All the time. You've got lots of projects to talk about. Let's start first about what is this committee all about? How many about are on the committee, and what exactly do you try to do?
Well, there are about 8 of us on the committee, and we formed in order to get some art into City Hall, which had just been built, and we thought it needed something. It was a beautiful building, but it needed some things. And one of the first projects we did was to put up an exhibit of photographs done by Art Dickey, who was not only a noted architect here, but an internationally known photographer. So the photographs are up in a hall there as a permanent display. And then the next project we wanted to do was to put something in one of the big, tall windows, to put art glass. And what we ended up with was a piece that depicts the city of Edina, the history of the city, because it shows the creek flowing, it shows the mill wheel and how the effect of that affects the life today in the city.
So the pieces that you choose when you go about them, you decide, all right, we're going to look for a sculpture, we're looking for a painting, we're looking for glass.
Right.
And then you go about sending letters out to artists. Is that right for the process?
Right. The first step in a major piece like that that's going to be commissioned is to ask for qualifications. So we send letters out to everybody we can and ask for them to show us what they've done, show us that they're capable of doing a big project like that. And then based on what they've done, we select 3 artists and pay them a stipend and ask them to come up with a specific proposal for this site, make a model possibly, drawings and so forth, so we can see what they want to do. And then we selected a finalist and had this piece built and installed, and that's we think a great addition to the City Hall when the light comes through from
absolutely.
the east.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you're also working on decorating the Promenade. That's your latest project, right?
Right. The current project, we just sent out letters to about 150 artists, and in this case, we're asking them for a specific proposal to say, I'll lend you this piece I already have for a year, and in return we pay them a stipend, but they install it, and it gives them an opportunity to possibly win an award, because we're going to have a People's Choice competition, and also possibly to sell the piece, because someone might find it's wonderful and they want it to be there permanently and come up with the money to help us do that.
So if I'm a sculptor and I have existing pieces and I want to say, well, take this one and put it in the Promenade, how many pieces are you looking to house in the Promenade?
Well, there'll be 9 in the Promenade, and we're asking at the same time for 3 pieces for Grandview Square Park. And that's an ongoing project where we've done this loan program for 3 years now. So it'll be a total of 12 pieces we hope to select this year.
And so the sculpture loans you the pieces for a year?
A year.
And people vote on them?
Right. We're going to set up a way to have the public vote for what piece they like best. The details aren't figured out yet, but we will.
Okay. And then basically the winning pieces you try to buy, is that right?
Well, the winning piece will get a cash award right away, but also if there's interest and we can raise the money, it may be something that we would want to keep there permanently.
And there are actually some pieces that the city has chosen to purchase.
We have. In the Grandview Square project, out of the 9 pieces, there's 3 spots there for art, and out of the 9 pieces we've had so far, we've purchased 2. One is the Raven, which is a black granite bird, and that's in City Hall in the lobby now. And the other is the Otter, which is in Edinburgh Park near a waterfall, which the kids just love to come and see and play with. So
beautiful pieces, and they bring a sense of charm, culture to our fabulous city.
that's right, and people begin to recognize, like the other big piece we didn't mention is the pine cone in Centennial Lakes Park, which is a 10-foot stainless steel pine cone. So it's very imposing and
gets your attention. People
memorable.
remember it. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and people might say, let's meet by the pine cone. Oh, I know where that is. Yeah.
Wonderful. Brad, Ben, thank you very much for all your work on this committee. And if people want to get involved, they can contact the City of Edina.
Yeah, you could contact through the Art Center or through the City of Edina. Just mention Public Art Committee, and we'd love to have people get involved, possibly as members of the committee to help us make these decisions, certainly as donors to help us buy these pieces. Be very welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing the pieces.
Good.
All right. Edina's newest piece of art is a beautiful pine cone standing tall in Centennial Lakes Park. And joining us to talk about how she went about creating that fabulous piece is the artist herself, Marsha Mceachran. Thanks for joining us on In Edina.
Oh, thank you very much for having me here.
It's a gorgeous piece. It stands about 10 feet tall.
Yes.
And it's made of stainless steel, right?
Stainless steel.
And it's a pine cone, and it represents prosperity and growth.
Yes, it does. It's a wonderful metaphor for the idea of the circle of life, because the pine cone itself, which almost emulates the shape of the pine tree itself, when it opens and the leaves of the pine cone open, they release the seed, and the life of the tree continues again. And so I thought that would be a great metaphor for the park. And,
especially because, of course, they have lots of pine trees there in the area, too.
Yes, that. And
families
just,
come and go, and
right.
children grow up through the park and play in the park.
Right, and I think it would be kind of an inspiring type of metaphor.
And the city, of course, is
see.
blossoming with more art in a particular park as well. And, of course, you have pine cones and a pine tree right there in your front yard. Is that really how the idea got started? Or?
Well, yes. It actually, the idea of taking objects from nature and making them bigger than life. And that's what Georgia O'Keeffe did in her paintings when she blew up the shape of flowers. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing with the pine cone and the sculptural forms. I took big leaves and I made some public art shelters out of great big huge leaves like a canopy. And so when I saw the pine cone, I thought, and I looked at the shape, I thought this has a really sculptural potential, because when you make something larger like that, certain aspects of it you miss come out in increasing the size. And so I had to do some changes in how I would approach that too. So it was a challenge to make that pine cone, because at first it can look like a very busy object, little object, you know.
Now, you're an artist, and in this particular pine cone is made out of steel, but you like metals, but you do all kinds of art.
Well, I've done a lot of watercolor and drawing. It's one of my favorite things to do. I majored in that area when I went to college. Way back when. And since then I haven't had a lot of time for it, because the metal did take over my life. I got into it in about 1981, and then it was just one thing after another, and pretty soon you're doing public art and you're doing furniture, I'm making sculpture. So it was kind of thing over the last 30 years that's kind of grown.
What does it mean as an artist to have a city choose your work and display it in a public place like the park?
Well, it's pretty special. You feel like your ideas are accepted as an important part of a community, and that's really important to an artist. I think being part of a community is important to me, and when I can put public art in a space and there's a feeling of appreciation, and but the thing, you know, when you put the artwork out there, it goes past you, it's beyond you. You put it out there, it's like a birth, you know. Here's your kid, and it grows up then in the community, kind of, and the community relates to it and takes it on, and that's kind of a nice feeling. You're putting something into a society, an idea or a thought that people need to remind themselves of often.
Well, clearly the city and all of the residents will embrace your fabulous piece of art at Centennial Lakes. We thank you for your work, and we really appreciate your interview today on Edina.
Thank you.
You're welcome. 3 sculptures will appear at the Grandview Square, and joining us to talk about those sculptures and the process for pulling it all together, the Executive Director for Edina's Community Foundation, Dick Crockett. Welcome to In Edina.
Thank you, Lillian.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're happy to have you here. Now, you play a role on the Public Art Committee, right?
I serve on the Public Art Committee as a representative of the foundation, and I'm specifically there to help support the development or fundraising needs of the committee.
So that's for all of the art sculptures that are throughout the city then?
Yes.
It's a big job, and you're focusing right now on Grandview Square, right?
We are.
Tell us a little bit about that area.
Well, Grandview Square Park is located right next to the Edina Library and Senior Center, and between the office building and residential condominiums there. 4 or 5 years ago, when that whole project was developed, this was just created as an open square.
And this is intended to be a sculpture garden,
Well,
right?
at that time it was a field of grass. And the foundation played a major role in working with the developers for both the residential areas and the office buildings, and the neighbors who'd moved in there to raise money in order to landscape the park and make it into, in effect, a sculpture park.
So with the intention of that, you have some specific artists or types of sculptures that you'd like to appear in this area?
Well, the Edina Public Art Committee developed a vision or a plan for the park that involved using the 3 sculpture pods that were created as part of the park to be a rotating exhibit, seasonal exhibits, one each summer, of 3 rented pieces to provide a little variety and culture right on the ground for the people who live in the area.
What's the seasonal area, the rotational period that you have the art?
Well, we try to define a 5-month summer. That's a little tricky in Edina, but we say it goes
It's tricky
from,
in Minnesota as a whole.
That's right, May 15th to October 15th.
Okay, so you're right now have proposals out there for artists. You're asking them to turn in proposals for the Grandview Square area, the 3 sculpture sites to sit on the pods. What kind of artists are you looking for? Anything in particular?
Well, one distinctive part about this is, of course, we're looking for art that is ready to go. In contrast to some of our other works throughout the city where we've commissioned work to be done by artists, City Hall, Pinecone, and Centennial Lakes, we're asking for proposals from artists to rent work to us that comes out of their studios. So it's a win for them because something they've already done can be put in public view, and it's a win for us because we don't have to wait for it to be done.
And so this process of taking a look at the applications that you receive, you are also considering a variety of sculpture materials.
We are. At least that's what we've been blessed with in the past. You know, we've had a couple notable pieces in bronze. We've had some nice pieces in stone, and then some pieces in metal. I have to tell you about one piece. It's really funny. There's one of our artists is from Bemidji, and he deals with what he calls found steel. This sculpture that I remember is called Gearhead, and it's a torso of a man that was on a swivel. It looked really nice from my office in the Senior Center Library when it was facing us, because you could see the whole torso. Well, then every once in a while I noticed that somebody in one of the residential condos had turned it on the swivel so that they could look at the torso. I'd let that go for a while, and then I'd go back out there and
Turn it yourself?
turn it myself, right.
Well, clearly the art gets the attention of residents and passersby.
I think so. We've had lots of positive comments from people who live and work in the area.
Okay. And you're talking about fundraising for this particular site. Is that a tall order, or folks pretty much are interested in participating in the community by making a donation and contribute to the art?
The cost of this is really very reasonable. We pay the artists $500 a year each, so it's $1,500 annual expense. Last year, one of the office tenants, Abdo Eichen Myers accounting firm, raised most of that money for us.
It's an excellent way to contribute to the community as a whole as well. You're accepting proposals through March, is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
This year the call for artists and proposals is going out with the call for the Promenade.
Okay.
So altogether we'll be looking at as many as 12 sites to fill 3 of them in Grandview Square.
Are you only interested in Minnesota artists, or can anybody apply for this?
Well, anybody can apply. Our preference for Grandview Square Park specifically has been local and regional artists. So we've had some Edina artists, some Twin Cities artists. The steel sculptor I mentioned is from Bemidji. We had one from Hudson, Wisconsin this last year. And we've had some repeaters.
Great. Well, we can't wait to see what shows up at the Grandview Park. Best of luck on your selections. And I know you're looking forward to seeing from your office window what comes out next in the Grandview Square Park area.
And hope I don't have to turn it too many times.
That's right. Dick Crockett, thanks so much for joining us on
You're welcome,
Edina.
Ryan.
The Public Art Committee is invested in its next project, how to decorate the Promenade, a beautiful site in the heart of the city. And joining us to tell us about it, Amy Kerber. She's a volunteer on the Public Art Committee. Thanks so much for joining us on In Edina.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And we know you're dabbling in fundraising and other activities with the committee, but you're here to talk about the Promenade. Let's describe the space.
Sure. Well, it's a gorgeous 1.5 mile paved parkway for bicyclists and pedestrians running just north of Centennial Lakes to and onward towards Southdale. And it has extensive landscaping, lighting. It's just a huge improvement over what was there before. And now we're going to have some sculptures, approximately 9 sculptures that will be placed throughout the promenade for people to see.
And since more people are using it, this is sort of a retail, recreational, and a residential area, right?
Sure, yep, all 3 of those combined.
Now, I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do enjoy going on the path, and I'll have to admit, I might stop now and
Right.
when I'm taking a walk, I might actually stop and take a look. Is
Yeah.
that the intention of
Sure,
this
it's a
area?
perfect spot for art and people to enjoy the art. Many people use that pathway on a daily basis, and now they will get to actually see some public art and enjoy it.
I know I've gone to a couple of sculpture gardens just for something to do, and you can stop, you read a little something about the sculpture, and I know you take the second look, you're like, oh, it didn't look like that, and then you read something about like, oh yeah, I can kind of see. Is that kind of what you're intending?
Sure, yep. It's a goal of the public art in general is learning and just interacting and seeing what the artist can create.
Now, I know you're just now collecting proposals for the 9 different pieces, and you're doing that through March, right?
Right, mid-March.
So you have no idea what you're going to get now
No,
from all of these proposals. How do you determine what 9 spots along the pathway?
Well, that'll just be up to the submissions that we receive and the committee
Okay.
to go through all of those.
All right, and you're looking for outdoor art, obviously.
Right.
It'll be an interesting area, and it'll clearly be an asset to the community and to those that will have an opportunity to take a look at it. And it's rotating art, right?
Right, yes, our goal is to have a piece for perhaps a year and then rotate it, or if we raise enough funds to purchase it and the community really likes it, we could perhaps keep it as a permanent piece.
Okay, wonderful. So this is all in the Promenade area,
Yes.
part of the Centennial Lakes Development Area. You must be very excited to be
Oh,
a part of
yes,
this committee
yes.
in the process.
Very exciting, yeah.
One quick question on funding. How do you go about funding all of this, or are you working on that, just getting started on that?
Sure, we're just getting started and we're looking for donations from businesses in the area, just people, Edina residents, that sort of thing.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see what the pieces are. We really appreciate your
Yeah,
time
thank
and
you.
your volunteer efforts on the Public Art Committee.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming to talk about the
Yeah.
Promenade. Well, if you'd like an opportunity to help bring the sculptures to the city of Edina, here is your chance to do just that. Joining us to talk about the fundraising efforts in the city is Assistant City Manager Heather Worthington. Thanks for joining us on In Edina. Always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Good to see you, Lillian.
Tell us a little bit about the city's way of helping residents get connected to the sculptures.
Well, as you know, we've invested quite a bit of money in our Promenade project, and that includes some opportunities for public art. And so we're asking residents to contribute to Your City, Your Art, which is our new campaign. It's a check off on your water bill.
And it's optional.
It's
so
optional.
Folks can decide how much they want to give.
Right.
Water bills are quarterly.
They're quarterly, and so it's very easy to do. You just tell us how much you'd like us to charge you every quarter, and then we'll do that.
And those contributions will roll in with any corporate or philanthropy donations that are given to bring the art to the city.
Yes, they
Excellent.
will.
You can discontinue them when you want, or
Correct.
is it ongoing forever, or is it just once a quarter?
You can discontinue when you like, and we're hoping to raise about $20,000 this year.
Okay, wonderful. So residents can do this by going online, so if they have internet access. If they don't have internet access?
Come into City Hall.
Okay, that sounds pretty easy. Check off box
Right.
and fill in the amount.
Right, cityofedina.com.
All right, wonderful. Why invest in art? I mean, why give residents such an opportunity to do this? What if I don't walk by the Promenade?
Right, and I think that's a good question, but some of the things that we've found are that public art in particular can really help children do better in school. It helps spark creativity. It's another way for us to be involved in the community, and it's obviously a way to beautify the community.
It's also a gathering place for members of the community. I know that if folks are going to gather by the pine cone, for instance,
Absolutely.
gives them an icon or something to shoot for and,
Right.
and enjoy. So schools are using it, communities are using it as well, and it is an opportunity to give something back to the city.
A very tangible way, and something that will last for a very long time.
Wonderful. So it's $20,000 a year you're trying to raise. That'll cover the cost of the, all 12 sculptures that are coming in.
Well, we're hoping that what we're going to be doing over time is building up a pot of money that we can then draw from when we find sculptures that we think fit into our public art scheme. And so that's something that we're partnering with the Edina Community Foundation on, and the Edina Public Art Committee.
And of course, the committee also is inviting public feedback then on which sculptures to have.
Well, I think they'll be doing that, and certainly you can see some of the sculptures that have been installed on a temporary basis up at Grandview Square, and there's a temporary, what we're kind of calling a sculpture park in that area, and you can go up there and look at some of them. We actually place those sculptures with the permission of the artist, and then we have an option to purchase them at some point in the future if the community responds very positively to them.
So raising the funds will give you an option to actually add to the collection in the city of Edina.
Right.
Well done. Your city, your art.
Your city, your art.
And online contributions to the City of Edina's website. Quarterly water bills, as much as you can afford.
Absolutely, we appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much, Heather Worthington. Appreciate having you on in Edina.
Thanks, Lillian.
We'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us on this program of In Edina. A special thanks to the Edina Arts Center for letting us bring you this broadcast from their very own space. We also want to wish everyone a happy new year. This is our last broadcast in 2008. We look forward to bringing you more next year. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. Thanks for watching In Edina. Until next time and next year, have a great day.